Hi everybody. I look a bit tired, don't I? Yes, I do. Because ever since I had my wisdom tooth removed, actually from both sides, I've not been sleeping properly. It still hurts a little bit. I'll show you. By the way, if you don't like blood, look away. Oh my god. Oh, I pulled it out of my mouth. Okay, you can look now. There's no more blood. I promise you. Anyway, I wanted to discuss about the reason why some of these Western people, men and women, have these stereotypes of East and Southeast Asian women to be submissive, subservient, docile, and, sex workers and prostitutes. These stereotypes, they're not modern. They have a historical connection to it, right? So I'll just get into my dissertation proposal here from my second year at uni, where I had to do some sort of investigation of how Asian women were being portrayed through Hollywood, early cinema of Hollywood. Anyway, my aim is to discuss more in depth about the above discovery of how only these two stereotypes of the East, which are never mentioned above, by the way, because I was stressed so high, I don't know, whichever one, began circulating in the Western society through historical contexts such as the dissolved Burlingame-Seward, oh God, I can't pronounce this, Burlingame-Seward Treaty of 1868, followed by the Yellow Peril movement, which enacted the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882, which trickled down to pop culture of the US. You might be curious about which two stereotypes, or rather, the primary archetypes of Asian women that I'm referring to. The lotus blossom, aka geisha girl, aka China doll, embodies the submissive and docile portrayals of Asian women. Let's dissect these stereotypes, shall we? Okay. The lotus blossom implies purity and passivity, yeah? China doll suggests fragility and objectification. And geisha girl evokes the image of a subservient and entertaining companion. The dragon lady, on the other hand, represents a cunning and deceitful archetype, often depicted as a sexy villainous seductress from the East. Right. These terms oversimplify and misrepresent the diversity and complexity of Asian women's identities, basically, as well as their experiences. It's important to note that my references will be framed within the context of Western imperialism. This is due to the, profound and deep historical roots to the misrepresentations of the Asian cultures, including women as well, by Western media, particularly through Orientalism. There's a term for that. And this was during the era of European colonial expansions in Asia, as well as other regions globally. What the hell is Orientalism? It's basically racism. Coined by Edward Said, a Palestinian-American literary theorist, cultural critic, and scholar. He gained international recognition for his influential work in post-colonial studies, particularly through his book Orientalism in 1978. So, Orientalism is essentially this Western way of looking at Eastern cultures, especially during colonial times. And it involves, romanticized and twisted representation of Asian, Middle Eastern, and even North African cultures. And I have to say, these European scholars and artists, they played a big role in shaping these perspectives, because they created these stereotypes through the misunderstandings of the East. This framework reinforced a Eurocentric viewpoint and power imbalances during the era of colonial expansion. In this section, I highlighted the misrepresented perspectives of Asian cultures, sorry about my cat, through Western viewpoint. So let me just find the page. Okay, here it is. That explained the hypersexualization of Asian women's physical features, hairstyles, and how they dressed in their traditional clothes, which grouped them in as the exotic, erotic others, shaped and fetishized by Western imperialism, which is the reason why Asian women have been underrepresented in the Western media. I will be referencing Leng, as in Rachel Leng, who wrote about these stereotypes, as Leng explained that, culturally speaking, Asian communities tend to follow tradition more closely, which through the lens of Western imperialism, their personality and character are commodified and dubbed as Lotus Blossom, China Doll, and Geisha Girl. The Lotus Blossom, China Doll, or Geisha Girl, whatever you want to call it, These are archetypal stereotypes that are often used to portray Asian women by the Orientalists. These terms perpetuate a narrow and stereotypical view depicting Asian women to be submissive, delicate, exotic, reinforcing notions of Asian women to be subservient, mysterious, and even hypersexualized, catering to Western perspectives as if we don't know how to reject sex because apparently we're too submissive to, or we are too sexually hyperactive, according to racist people. While some of those racist Western people repeat these historical stereotypes of East and Southeast Asian women, like such as Thai women, to be submissive and objectified us on social media, some Westerners actually advocate for Thai customs, Thai people, and the country Thailand. Their admiration for the Thai culture and lifestyle is evident as many hold them in high regard in their contents about living the good life outside of the US, glorifying a foreign country, while these other American guys are demonizing it.
Some cartoon shit. This is some cartoon shit. Bugs Bunny type shit. You know what I'm saying? Sesame Street type shit. This is what he hit y'all with, man. Come on, dog, man. You gotta be kidding me, man. Let's keep it real, man. So we got millions of prostitutes. Millions, like nigga, ready, on deck. Now we gotta get them ready. They ready, millions.
Okay, let's just move on. He ain't got nothing intellectual to say here.
I'm not knowing 8 out of 10 women in Pattaya, maybe 9 out of 10 women is a freelancer. I'm thinking maybe you got to go to like the spots to really meet them where they hang out at, like Soy Bucal, Soy 6, Soy 3, Soy 7. I didn't think I could just go to the mall and get a random woman numbers that's dressed conservative, and she turns out later on to be a damn freelancer. So I learned the hard way, guys. So I'm still new to the country, right? And I got to talking to this older cat. He's been in Thailand since '94. He told me if I want to meet the good quality women, I got to go hang out at the malls. Pattaya got a couple of good, decent sized malls or whatever. So I go to the Central Mall.
Yeah, but did you walk far enough into the bookstore? Maybe you could have found someone who's decent there. That guy who gave you the advice to find a decent woman at the mall, he's a fucking idiot. Sorry to say that, but think about it, yeah. What kind of woman would you find at the mall? You're going to find those that came with their friends or their boyfriends just hanging out, not looking for a date. You're going to find moms with their kids and the family. And you're going to find some of those women who tell the guys to buy this and that for them, You're going to find some gold diggers at the mall. So if you want to avoid that, try the fucking library, yeah? The library, it has some English books as well. You can read the history of Thailand. Yeah, go and educate yourself. How about that? Maybe you might be more attractive to decent girls of Thailand. I'm not denying his experiences, but his content focuses on the negative side a lot. It can get a bit toxic. Enter the Dragon Lady archetype. Here's what I wrote in my dissertation proposal. The other overexposure stereotype that is contrary to this perception of submissive, subservient, and non-threatening Asian women by the West is the term Dragon Lady. First appeared in Terry and the Pirates comic strips in 1934, written by Milton Caniff, inspired by a female Asian character in a film called Daughter of the Dragon, made in 1931. Played by the first Asian American actress, more accurately, Chinese American movie star Anna May Wong. The Dragon Lady stereotype is associated with the femme fatale of the East, cold, calculating, deceitful, and ruthless villain who weaponizes herself with sexual seduction to achieve her goals. Portrayed as a dangerous, beautiful seductress, a sexualized female version of Yellow Peril. I will delve deeper into the beginning of demonization and the exaggerated yellow skin caricature of Chinese immigrants, which posed them as threats in Western propaganda of the Yellow Peril movement. What's Yellow Peril? Yellow Peril. The demonization and racist caricatures of East Asians, especially towards Chinese people. No wonder the CCP resent you. This is what I found during my research. Okay, I can't be bothered to read, so I'm gonna make the computer read it.
The term yellow peril refers to Western fears that Asians, in particular the Chinese, would invade their lands and disrupt Western values, such as democracy, Christianity, and technological innovation. However, ideas about Western progress at the time also included beliefs that are recognized as problematic today, such as white supremacy and the virtue of colonizing non-Western lands. In the mid-19th century, many Americans began to feel threatened by an increase in immigration from China to the United States. Reasons for this included xenophobia or dislike of foreigners, as well as more complex causes such as labor tensions and shifting national identities. Media portrayals of Asians and Asian Americans invoked yellow peril imagery as a sign of villainy, malevolence, or undesirability. Popular illustrations emphasized exotic features such as eye shape, often rendered as narrow slits, and skin color, often exaggeratedly yellow. The most recognizable yellow peril character is Dr. Fu Manchu, the villain of a series of crime novels published from 1913 onward by British author Sax Rohmer. Fu Manchu was usually shown in traditional Chinese clothing, and wearing the distinctive style of moustache that has become associated with his name. Ming the Merciless, a villain from the Flash Gordon comic strip in the late 1930s, is similar to Fu Manchu in both appearance and his desire for world domination. The cover illustration from a 1906 Nickel Weekly or Adventure magazine features a Chinese man leaping on the back of a white youth and appearing to injure him, reflecting the general fear of domination by Asian immigrants and Asian Americans in the United States.
It's not plagiarism if I put the link down in the description box of where I got this from. If you want to read the full complete text, please visit the website. So the concept of yellow peril gained prominence in the late 19th century to the early 20th century, coinciding with the legislative actions like the Page Act of 1875. It's a US federal law where it primarily targeted Asian immigrants, particularly Chinese women, under the assumptions of immorality.
Chinese women immigration and the first US exclusion law, the Page Act of 1875. The Page Act had three main goals, all focused on preventing immigration from China, Japan, and other parts of the Orient, an outdated term for Asian countries. First, the law made it illegal for any U.S. citizen to bring migrants from Asia for the purpose of forced labor. Second, it also restricted the immigration of any convicted criminal who had not completed their sentence. Both provisions were in practice almost impossible to enforce. The third goal of the Page Act was much easier to enforce because it focused on Asian women. While immigration officials might have trouble determining whether an individual was enslaved or a convicted criminal, it was much easier to determine that an individual was a woman. Section 3 of the Page Act forbade the importation of women into the United States for the purposes of prostitution. The act also gave immigration officials full authority to determine whether an Asian woman was being trafficked for lewd and immoral purposes. On the face of it, this law seems designed only to prevent human trafficking and forced prostitution. But when we consider the Page Act in the context of extreme anti-Asian rhetoric and violence at the time, we get a broader view of the law's intent and impact. Although the act applied to women from all Asian countries, its unspoken focus was on Chinese women. Throughout the late 19th century, American mass media promoted the erroneous notion that Chinese people were morally inferior, and thus a danger to American society. Even without clear proof that a woman was destined for prostitution, such notions made it easy for U.S. immigration officials to assume that any Asian woman was potentially a moral threat. While the Page Act denied Asian women the opportunity for a better life in the U.S., it also affected Asian men who wanted to stay in the U.S. by preventing them from being able to marry and establish families. The lawmakers who supported the Page Act surely understood that such a restriction might help discourage Asian men from emigrating and discourage immigrant men from staying. The Page Act also perpetuated the mistaken but very popular 19th century American notion that Asians were immoral, deviant people. It helped reinforce sexualized stereotypes and misogyny towards Asian women for decades to come. In 1882, 7 years after the passage of the Page Act, the Chinese Exclusion Act would restrict the emigration of all Asian women and men to the United States. Both of these laws were in violation of the 1868 Burlingame-Seward Treaty, which explicitly granted Chinese people the right to emigrate to the U.S. The Page Act was finally repealed in 1974. In 2011, the U.S. Senate issued a statement of regret for its earlier passage of restrictive immigration laws, including the Acts of 1875 and 1882.
Yeah, but we still go through shit these days. Nothing's changed much. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was later extended to Canada through a similar law, which was enacted in 1923 all the way to 1947.
Must bar Oriental completely to save BC for the white race. It's that sentiment which fueled the creation of the Chinese Exclusion Act 100 years ago. The legislation is the feature exhibit for the new Chinese-Canadian Museum. It essentially banned Chinese people from coming to Canada.
These were the cards issued mainly to Canadian-born children.
And forced everyone of Chinese descent, even Canadians, to register with immigration. For curator Kathleen Clement, it's personal.
To not only tell the story of those who are resilient and came through it and who I am the descendant of, but also the stories of those people who were lost and who unraveled.
She details the lives of men cut off from their families in China and forced to live in solitude.
We start to see a lot of reported suicides in the newspaper.
Let's explore how Hollywood, spanning from the early 20th century to the 21st century, along with contemporary media portrayals, that has persistently reinforced these stereotypes of Asian women, including depictions of prostitutes. That shapes Western perceptions, which further contribute to a reductionist understanding of Asian women's identities worldwide. Films such as Sayonara, made in 1957, which portrayed the geisha girl and the lotus blossom stereotypes. The World of Susie Wong, made in 1960, portrayed the lotus blossom and prostitute stereotypes. Breakfast at Tiffany's, made in 1961. I know he's a man, and what I've been talking about is just stereotypes for Asian women, but this character kind of fit into the stereotypes that they have, like the exaggerated caricature of East Asian people. And this is a white man playing as a Japanese man. So that's yellow face, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, Full Metal Jacket. This is my favorite.
Hey, baby! You got girlfriend, Vietnam? Well, baby, me so horny. Me so horny. Me love you long time. Me love you long time. Me so horny. Me sucky sucky. Me love you too much.
Alright, the Dragon Lady and prostitute stereotypes in this one. The Joy Luck Club, 1993. Criticized for potentially falling into the Lotus Blossom archetype. Then there's that musical called Miss Saigon, The Heat Is On, in 1999, which portrayed the Lotus Blossom and prostitute stereotypes. Lost in Translation, 2003. Criticized for its portrayal of Japan, potentially reinforcing certain stereotypes. And then, last but not least, Memoirs of a Geisha, 2005. Obviously, the geisha girl stereotype. And a song about a China doll, which I stumbled upon it by accident while watching Funny X Factor. This is how me and my best friend actually bonded through this funny video.
Just the two of us.
This way. Okay.
I'm tired of crying and all you lying. That's why I'm buying. Our lips are true, my China doll. It's just like
John, I'm gonna stop. It's not you, I'm really sorry. There is a little bit of a charisma problem, John. That's my main concern. I don't think you would excite an audience.
So here is the original song sang by this guy called Slim Whitman. You might as well call him Slim White Man.
I'm tired of crying and on a lying. That's why I'm buying a China doll.
These films and music have either referenced historical context, or the way that they portrayed Asian women was probably through a limited prism, which perpetuate these stereotypes that oversimplify as well as to distort the diverse realities of the Asian cultures as well as the Asian identities. The portrayal of Asian women as overly sexualized in the US pop culture And the spread of these stereotypes worldwide through Western media, including literature and Hollywood films, they have had a noteworthy impact, I have to say. These depictions have fueled damaging biases, leading to the cultivation of hatred and prejudice against Asian women, even within the non-white communities, which is why I think Asian fishing is very wrong, because first of all, it involves people who are not of the Asian descent. But what they're doing is that they are appropriating some elements of the Asian cultures, our physical features and appearances, just for the intention of garnering some sort of attention and even money through adult content by dressing up as some Japanese schoolgirls. It's really fucked up, but it happens. So to me, it's very disrespectful, because you are undermining the authentic experiences within the Asian community. And it's no different from, back in the days, yellowface. And if you heard of blackface, then you should listen to yellowface too. Made up Asians. Yellowface during the exclusion era. Okay, I'm gonna read this bit for you because it's short, so I can be bothered. Esther Kim Lee traces the development of yellowface in the US context during the exclusion era from 1862 to 1940, when Asians faced legal and cultural exclusion from immigration and citizenship. These caricatured, distorted, and misrepresented versions of Asians took the place of excluded Asians on theatrical stages and cinema screens. Hollywood's history of yellowface pretty much set the stage for whitewashing. It's like a practice of casting white actors or actresses to play roles that were originally intended for non-white characters, such as Asians, for example. This was done through literature, films, anything. Examples of yellowface in Hollywood. Dragon Seed, a 1944 film where all the cast were white people playing as Chinese characters. No Chinese allowed except for the fake ones. The Good Earth, in 1937, played by all of these white people. I swear she was squinting her eyes here. And The Mask of Fu Manchu in 1932, played by Boris Karloff in a controversial portrayal of Chinese villain Fu Manchu. And so many more series of this same Chinese villain played by different white actors. And Nicolas Cage. Oh my god, you have to see this.
And Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu.
I wanted Cinnabar. Cinnabar! To my liking! This is my vision!
His moustache moves like two chopsticks. And then Hollywood just whitewashed the whole thing eventually. They thought might as well just go all the way with one race, which is the white race. Ghost in the Shell, made in 2017, played by Scarlett Johansson. Or is it Johansson? Anyway, it doesn't matter. A white actress, obviously, who took the leading role of the character, which was originally a Japanese character. It doesn't really matter anyway, because I prefer the anime version, Ghost in the Shell, Innocence. This one is really good, you should watch it. Anyway, moving on. Doctor Strange in 2016, played by Tilda Swinton, a white actress, was cast as the Ancient One, a character with Tibetan origins in the comic source material. And then Aloha 2015, where Emma Stone, a white actress, was cast as a character of Chinese and Hawaiian descent. And one of my favorite childhood TV shows, I Dream of Jeannie, played by Barbara Eden, who's actually related to Benjamin Franklin. I mean, this was made in the 60s, but I'm not that old. There was a rerun in the 90s. So this is where I want to point out that this is whitewashing a character that was meant to be Middle Eastern, for example, because Jin, you know. In my upcoming video, I will be focusing on the significant historical events, including the Philippine-American War of 1899, as well as the plight of comfort women during World War II, and also the impacts of the Vietnam War, starting from around 1950s to the 1970s. Additionally, I want to discuss about the emergence of R&R sports, which stands for rest and recuperation or rest and recreation. This sort of stuff was popping up around Asia, like Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, like the Philippines, and also Thailand, which contributed to the modern sex industries within certain Asian cities, which also further reduced these Asian women down to just sex workers or prostitute stereotypes made by the white supremacists. Also, just because you're white doesn't automatically make you a supremacist. You have to be a supporter of that establishment to be one. So you can stop shitting your pants now from feeling overly anxious. I swear to you, every time I talk to a white person about this, the first thing they want to say is, I'm not racist. It's like, I know you're not fucking racist, because if you are, you wouldn't be talking to me, would you? Before I go, I just want to show you how I drifted off like halfway through my dissertation proposal. Asia has produced and China had got a higher monthly box office than Hollywood, according to the film industry in China. This is why I scored only 62%. It's a pass, so it's pretty good for someone who's actually been high throughout the whole fucking thing. I mean, I'm high right now as we speak. If you appreciate my content, please give it a thumbs up. And also share my content if you really, really like it. And also to show your support. And subscribe if you're new to my channel, to my little YouTube community on here. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.